Welcome to My Conversation, a presentation of KAIL-TV My Central Valley. So let's get My Conversation started.
Welcome to another edition of My Conversation here in the local Fresno market. And we're really happy to have a great studio audience today. Nice job, nice job. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is your local programming here to meet great people from the Valley, not only regular people, but business people also. And today we start out with a old friend of the show, Mr. Michael Bogart of Aspect Ministries. How you doing, Michael?
Good to see you, Bernie.
All right. So what have you been up to? What's new?
Well, you know, there's been a lot of things going on with my ministry. Of course, my ministry is pretty diverse. We have this motto that we're helping people to have effective 21st century faith. And so that can cover a lot of things. We do, for instance, we help churches and individuals figure out how to reach the millennial generation, the 18 to 35-year-olds that seem to be either disinterested in Christian faith or they were raised in it and walked away. Right. And the other aspect that I sort of wanted to focus on this week, because I talked about that, the millennials last week, was this business of where the church is really mushrooming in developing countries. They don't have the right kind of trained leadership often. And so the other thing that we do at Aspect Ministries is provide materials and training programs and connections with leaders in developing countries, Christian leaders in developing countries, so that they can be more effective in leading those rapidly growing churches that they have.
Wow, that's great. You can do all that from here in Fresno?
Well, I do some of it from here in Fresno. I've made over 30 trips to developing countries. You know, Mexico's not exactly a developing country, but, you know, the Congo in Africa and, you know, Haiti and South Africa, places like that. You find that there's a desperate desire on the part of many people for some really decent, basic Christian leadership training. Yeah. And so I made all those trips, and then at one point, you know, I've been very, very sick in some of those countries and wondering if I was going to make it home. Mm-hmm. And so I decided when I got back that I would go ahead and pursue a doctorate, which I'm just about finished with. And my research is focusing on how to deliver Christian training across cultures, which is not the same thing as teaching people in your own culture, and using e-technologies to do it. And so that's the reason I haven't been back overseas for a couple of years, is because I've been really focusing on that, the doctoral training and producing the research that's going to, I hope, provide more options to producing that kind of training. Yeah,
that's got to be tough with the language barrier when you're over in these other countries. Right. I've been to many countries myself, and for somebody who's watching who's never been to some of these third world countries, you have no idea what they're living like until you're there and you see and smell the way it is. It's unbelievable. So it's great that you're reaching out like that.
Yeah, and you talk about language. I mean, I've had to have my stuff interpreted into French in French-speaking or Francophone countries.
Oui, oui.
And in Spanish and, you know, Hispanic countries. Although I speak some Spanish, but I'm not good enough to teach in Spanish. Yeah. So there's a lot that goes to that. You only cover about 60% of the material that you think you're going to cover if you've got to go through an interpreter, because it takes time to bring that into the other language. And sometimes the interpreter doesn't understand the slang that you use. So you've got to realize that you can't use idiomatic expressions. You just have to be really generic. Mm-hmm. So there's a whole art to learning how to do that.
Well, you have to know a lot of Spanish, because I get by on all of my trips to Mexico knowing just one phrase: Dos margaritas las rocas con sol. Okay.
I thought it was Donde está el baño?
Oh. And then please leave ugly American. They know that. But yeah. Well, that's great that you're going in that direction. What else have you got for us?
Well, and I've got a couple of books that I've written along the way too. I mean, I've written 5 different books, but I wanted to focus on this one today. And I wanted to, I guess it's a special promotion just to kind of see who's watching the show, that within the next 7 days, so between now and next Friday, that whoever calls, shouldn't say call, whoever emails me at mike@aspectministries.com, so mike@aspectministries.com, first person to email me and ask either for a free DVD, which is my 45-minute Bible, or the book version. They could have the book version, the 45-minute Bible book, or I have it in Spanish, La Biblia en 45 minutos.
Lost me.
You've got the, you can have either one of those, the Spanish version of the book, the English version of the book, or the DVD, I'll give them a free copy of it if they'll give me their address. And so
It's a good idea keeping it to 45 minutes because the attention spans over the generations now have shrunk, right?
Well, I've got a funny story about that, and my nephew actually is a professional videographer, and he put this together. I'm just the talking, the host, and he did all the graphics, and it's really quite good. I sell quite a few of these on Amazon. But he had a friend who was an atheist, and he was bad-mouthing the Bible and said the Bible was a hateful book, and all the things that some people say. Yeah. And my nephew kept saying, no, it's not. You need to read it. It's not. You'll find out if you read it. It's not. And the guy says, I don't have time to read a big book like that. And then my nephew realized he was just finishing the editing on this. He said, well, would you watch a 45-minute video? And the guy says, oh, yeah. So about a week later, he gets a phone call, and the guy says, all right, you're right and I'm wrong. It's not a hateful book. So at least it accomplished that.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm kind of excited about it.
Good, good. So what's next on the burner for you? What are you going to be doing?
Well, like I say, I'm going to be finishing up this doctorate hopefully this summer, and then hopefully working with Christian organizations to put together options for how they can do training remotely, like with smartphones, with tablets. Oftentimes the internet doesn't work that great in some of these developing countries, but the phone lines work great. And so you can do a lot on a smartphone, nice. Or you can do at least some things on a smartphone.
Well, speaking of smartphones, tell your audience that's listening to you right now over here how to get a hold of you and how to get involved.
Well, we're at aspectministries.com. My email is mike@aspectministries.com. And if you'd like to get involved, you can email me. We can give you all sorts of options in terms of how you can be involved in helping some of these people, but also how you can get some of the materials. The 45-minute Bible, I've got one on Islam. What is Islam? What is Mormonism? What is Jehovah's Witness? What is the New Age movement? Mm-hmm. And a whole bunch of other kind of training materials that can be used. So that's all available.
So get yourself educated, doing it only 45 minutes at a time on many different religions.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
At least it gets your foot in the door.
Yeah. All right. Well, it sounds great. And how many times have you been on the show? Many?
Well, Bernie, I don't know, quite a few, but twice before with you.
I know. This is number 3 for us.
Yeah,
huh?
yeah.
All right. So. Sounds good. So what we're going to do now is wrap it up and get ready for our next guest, who is going to have to try to fill your shoes now. Appreciate it. Okay, we'll be right back at My Conversation. Thanks.